order. The Runnymede Board of Education meeting is called to order. The Board of Education is in compliance with the sunshine regulations. This meeting was appropriately advertised by notifying the retrospect as well as posting notices in Borough Hall, the Runnymede Post Office, Maryville School, Lyon Bingham School, and Grace Downing School. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, board members.
Angel Beebe. Here. Charles Buckheim.
Present.
Naomi Davidson.
Here.
Amy Farley.
Here.
Maria Panzarella. Patricia Smith. Here. Samantha Spalding.
Here.
Lynn Terrell. Here. John Moore. Absent. 8 present, 1 absent.
Also present, Dr. Nancy Ward, Superintendent of Schools, Joanne Augustine, Business Administrator, Maria Gallagher, Principal, Bingham and Downing Schools, Mark Iannucci, Principal, Holt School, Robert Mungo, Assistant Principal, Holt School, Janet Fiola, Child Study Team Coordinator, Butch Bruner, Maintenance Supervisor, and Philip Stern, Board Solicitor. At this time, I need the approval of minutes. We need to approve the regular minutes from August 15th, the special session minutes from August 29th, which I guess is the board retreat. Motion made by Patty, seconded by Angel. Are there any questions? Roll call.
Angel Beebe.
Yes.
Charles Buckheim.
Yes.
Naomi Davidson.
Yes.
Amy Farley.
Yes for the 29th, abstain from the 15th.
Maria Panzarella.
I have to abstain
From the
Yes.
Patricia Smith.
Yes.
Samantha Spalding.
Yes.
Lynn Terrell.
Yes.
And John Moore.
Yes for 15th, and no question, no report.
Abstain.
Abstaining.
Motion carries.
Under correspondence, we have, I believe, what Ms. Carrillo has, had requested from Cooper Hospital for you to review.
Yes, thank you. Just good to see it's being used. Thanks.
Any other questions or concern with that letter? What that letter is just a report on, obviously the, employee assistance program is confidential. However, we just wanted to know if it was being used or not. At this, by our employees.
I have a question on
Yes.
that. Just out of curiosity, you know on the one side where it says 23.4% for late cancels, that's in 24 hours notice? What do these percentages mean? What are they exactly? Is that the percentage of are canceling, or what are they? Do we know? It's the contact utilization rate, so it looks like it is. But that's saying that 24% of people cancel? Leave at the bottom where it says 23.4.
Late cancellation, less than 24 hours. The number, it looks like, was 3, but based on those totals, or actually, if you go over, depending on which column you're looking at, so it looks as though, even if you went to the July 11th to June of 2012, it looks like that there were 6 people that had a late cancellation with less than 24 hours, so they're just giving you a percentage of the total of people during that period.
Any other questions? All right, at this time, we are open for public comments on agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person and state your full name and address. Does anybody have any public comment at this time on agenda items only? No? Okay. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Spalding. The district enrollment as of the 21st was 868 students, which is just about where we left off last June. We've had ins and outs, and it's pretty much balanced out. 15 of them are out-of-district students, out-of-district placements for students who are in special education. I believe that you have a pretty comprehensive principals reports regarding the opening of school, which went smoothly this year. And Downey's was postponed, it's going to be tomorrow night. We had that tornado threat, so we thought it was most responsible to postpone that for a week. Turnout has been very good, and we were pleased to see so many people. A formal dress code that includes school uniforms, that survey was distributed. I can tell you that we had 279 responses so far. 274 were paper responses, and 5 of them were on the web. It was actually just posted on the web yesterday. We've also asked with the web responses that people identify their name and phone number so that we can verify. So just in case a student might get in there to do the survey, we want only adults to do the surveys. So the yes responses currently are at 164, and the no responses are at 115.
And that's for school uniforms?
That is, yes,
Okay.
the formal dress code, that would include a school uniform.
Can you repeat those numbers, how they were?
Certainly, 279 responses total, 164 yes, 115 no, right now. So, we'll keep the board posted.
Business administrators report, do we have anything?
Anything to add? Well, I listed the items on my report. I know that there's a couple of things that you'll take a look at, because our lease on our copier printer is expiring in November, so I had a couple of representatives in to see what they could offer us as far as an updated and new lease, so you'll have that information to approve on this agenda as well. I also was able to do the registration for the convention coming up at the end of October, and I was able to reserve rooms below, not exceeding the allotment for the per night accommodations at Trump Plaza, and it's the one that's closer to the convention center itself, although they will have shuttle bus service too, and there will be a schedule available. So as it gets closer, I'll give you more of that information so that each of you will have that. I've also gotten an invitation from Garrison Architects too, for a reception that they're having on one night as well, so I'll distribute that as well.
Thank you.
All the workshops we do, some of them are pretty good. I believe last time we met, you just show up and hopefully you get a seat, or do you register for this?
That was the way it had been handled in the past. I have not seen anything online where there was the pre-registration to reserve that slot yet.
Building and grounds report, principals report, nurses report, and special education reports are all attached. Is there any questions on any of those reports? Thank you. Any questions on any of those reports? Okay, PTA report, Mrs. Marker, do you have anything?
You caught me off guard, Mr. Simple. Let's see. Well, we're selling coupon books,
Okay.
and what else, Mrs. Stiles?
Friday night.
Oh, Friday night's the family game night.
I'll be here.
We didn't have a very big response, so I don't know if maybe kids are just gonna show up.
Show up.
And book fair starts October, and I think that's it.
October 26th, the comedy show.
Oh, yes,
We have tickets, $20 a piece.
$20 a piece.
And
Where is it, where is it going to go?
Yeah, Cherry Hill,
Cherry
Cherry Hills
Hill.
and Comedy Club.
Come and laugh. I think that's it.
the page on the website is up and running and
Oh,
it's
good.
looking good.
Oh, yeah, I did put it
Thank
on.
you for
Thank you, that's
all
all.
of your work on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall, I'm sorry to catch you off guard.
That's all right.
Committee reports, Camden County Educational Service Commission report, I don't believe there is a report. Naomi, you have a school board's report?
Yes, I have a brief report. The New Jersey School Board Convention is October 23rd through the 25th. Theme is Partners in Student Success. You can see the website that they have for training times and dates. The mandated training that's there, apparently you need to register by October 10th to do that, and I think that's through the, our business administrator, I believe does that. The second thing was the inter-district school choice offerings. The governor has given 67 districts are taking part in this new initiative. The state has been given $14.2 million for this new program, and students can attend a public school
of outside of their district of residence and at not cost parents. The enrollment can be regardless of whether or not their district participates in this new inter-district school choice award. The New Jersey School Boards Association had an article in here, if anybody's interested in it. I was kind of confused because I know it's different from choice schools, so it's
It's
the
the same, they just added
more
more
districts.
school choice districts.
And the last thing is that October 10th is our next Camden County Association meeting, and that's October 10th at 7 p.m. at meeting at the Linden North High School. So I usually attend if anybody is free to go with me that night, that would be fine. And if anybody wants to look at this school board notes, that's also.
Do you have a time for that meeting?
I believe it's 7 p.m. Registration is earlier at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, Nina. Black Horse Pike, progress curriculum did not meet. Policy and public relations did not meet this month. Negotiations, finance personnel, property did not meet. However, our new superintendent search committee did have our first meeting this evening, and I wanted to update everybody on where we are at with that. In tonight's meeting, we have decided that we are not going to use New Jersey School Boards or any other association to help us with our search, and that is due in for several reasons, one being cost, and two being we have everything that we need thanks to Ms. Davidson, who saved everything from before. So that's what the committee has decided, if you guys have any input. We also came up with some criteria that we're going to look for from when we post. With that being said, next month, the October 17th Board of Education meeting, we are going to have a public session for public comments, input, concerns about the superintendent search. And we are also, just the committee, going to meet, I'm going to send a memo out to all Runnymede staff, and we are going to meet with them October 8th if they want any concerns, want to voice it, and have any input in the superintendent search. So after both of them, we are going to post our superintendent position on November 11th. The deadline for that is going to be Friday, December 7th. Monday, December 17th, the committee will meet again to go through resumes. On the 2nd, we will meet again before our reorg meeting and set up and decide people that we would like to interview. And then we are going to hope that we can interview possible candidates at before, actually, the January board meeting. So we would like to ask the rest of the members who are not on the committee, would you be able to meet around 5 o'clock for full board interviews? Mr. Ward, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock? So we would do that before our,
On the second.
our regular meeting, which would probably be the 23rd, after reorg. So that's the timeline that we have constructed right now, and as always, we will keep you all posted. Are there any questions? Yes?
I guess I have two questions. One is, what is the cost of going through these other agencies? Because hopefully we're going to be getting enough applicants that we're going to have great applicants and have a good person coming in because we're not going to go through certain professional groups. I'm just curious, what's the savings? Why we're not going that route?
Well, the one quote that we received was around $6,500 and to do it, and honestly, we used them the last time we hired a superintendent, and we were not thrilled with the services. So what we did. Did I look We didn't see the results. We said with what we were given. For $6,500, I would like I think this board would agree, we'd rather put that into our children than pay for that. So, but with that being said, Nancy also got together, we're going to post throughout the state, in the Star Ledger, Carrier Post, Gloucester County. So we still will be saving a few $1,000s, but getting it on NewJersey.com, Career Builder, so we're still gonna have a wide range of applicants throughout the state. It's just that the services they gave us, they would just give us this exact binder that we already have. So why pay $6,500 for the binder that Ms. Davidson saved?
Okay.
And they also, they would get the applicants, and they would look through those applicants and see what met our criteria. So a lot of it, we can do as a committee, having gone through that one time, we know what their services provide, and I think, that our core committee, we can do that in committee and present to the full board,
Very good. Okay.
our recommendations.
The second question I have is more about the interviewing process as a board we interview. If we're going to be doing interviews, I don't know how many candidates you're gonna have at that final list, but let's say we have 5.
Okay.
And if we're gonna do interviews, say it's 5 or 5:30, and we're at 7, it doesn't give us a whole lot of time to ask in-depth questions and get real good responses. There may be other board members around the table here that have done hiring and firing. I'm one of them. And I can tell you, when I first became a principal, I used to interview teachers, and I conducted an interview about 20 minutes, and while I had the person I was looking for, I wound up not giving them tenure the same month. The lesson I learned that I spent a lot of, probably the last 7 years that I was working, I would spend an hour and a half to 2 hours interviewing candidates.
Well,
Because I really wanted to dig deeply, because every person you hire has a tremendous impact, and the superintendent has an enormous impact.
it's the biggest job we have as a
And
board
I
member.
would just recommend to the board that I think the interview should be a night other than following into a board meeting, so that we don't feel rushed, and we can ask them. I want to give them some scenarios, I want to see how they react, I want to see their physical reaction, I want to listen to what they say.
We
how
have
they
a
think
list
through
of
problems.
questions that we're gonna give the entire board, so we can start looking, probably next month, so we can start looking through, seeing which one, maybe add some, maybe delete some. But the first round, obviously, we'll definitely conduct the second round
Okay.
too. So it won't just be a one interview, it'll be definitely a second interview. And we maybe could push the board meeting back an hour, could we start at 8 o'clock that evening? We have that, we have enough time to do that.
And I believe in democracy, if I'm off and.
No, you're not off. I
But
don't think you're
this
off.
is an important job, and if we only get to interview each candidate for 15, I do not believe that's
Right,
enough time
but this
to
we-
really get a
We
feel.
can add another night too. We
Right,
can add
last
another-
time this board did not just go through one round and make a decision, it was
Okay.
definitely, yes, we
Very
eliminated some,
important decision.
yes, we eliminated some candidates and then brought the ones we felt were really strong candidates back for more in-depth questions.
I'm gonna give scenarios and ask them, how would you handle
Yes,
it?
exactly, that's
Okay.
part of
And I
it.
think, Mr. Buckheim, you'll be pleased, with what we're even gonna say and what we're gonna request with the application. We're gonna be extremely thorough, so then we're gonna have an intense screening process that hopefully the 5 we bring to you, one of those 5 are our person.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Okay. New business, property and transportation. We need to approve items number 1, facility use, the week care club schedule, number 2, field trips, number 3. So I need a motion to approve items number 1 through 3.
Take that motion, approve 1, 2, 3.
Motion made by Carmen, seconded by Maria. Any questions? Roll call.
Angel Levy,
Yes.
Charles Buckheim,
Yes.
Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Maria Panzarella,
Yes.
Patricia Smith,
Yes.
Samantha Spalding,
Yes.
Lynn Terrell,
Yes.
and John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Personnel, we need a motion to approve the following items, number 1 through 13 on the second page. Items number 1 through 13.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items number 1 through 13 under personnel.
Motion made by Naomi,
I'll second it.
seconded by Lynn. That's a long list. Any questions or concerns?
Number 13, are we adding days?
Same amount.
It's just depending on how the calendar looks each year, the days are different.
Number 3, Mrs. Julia, is that what we had spoke of during our retreat and the amount of time and,
She's the tier 3 for the RTI.
got it? Got it. but she's one of the three, only part-time.
Yes.
Was she supposed to be full-time?
No.
She's a former teacher.
She's a retired teacher.
Right, got
Always
it.
a reading, has some specialties.
Okay.
Number 6, we did not know that the person, we thought that we hired her at a bachelor's degree level. She has a master's degree, so we just have to adjust that.
Does she have certification come to the office to prove her
Oh,
certification?
yes.
Okay.
We're gonna adjust them unless they show us their transcript.
Any other questions?
For number 7, I guess this person moved up. That just happens whenever they do it, doesn't happen at the beginning of the next contract year.
No, it happens in
Mid-spring.
September or in January, it's first year.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Angel Beebe,
Yes.
Charles Buckheim,
Yes.
Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Maria Panzarella,
Yes.
Tricia Smith,
Yes.
Samantha Spalding,
I abstain for number 1, and yes for numbers 2 to 13.
Jim Trillo,
Yes.
and John Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under finance, we need motions to approve items number 1, item number 2 to 10. So items number 1 through 10. Please take a look at items number 7 to 10. They were not on our agenda that was sent to our house. They were just added. Motion made by Patty, seconded by Maria. Any questions?
On number 9, is that a monthly rate, does that also include service?
Yes.
And I asked the question before the meeting, Mr. Buckheim, that's actually cheaper than the current lease we have, too.
And number 2, where it's the AED, the $2,100, the AED training. The fire department would do that for a lot less. And it may even be further. On number 2, probably 1, 2.
They
Six
do
on down,
CPR and AED, they do CPR as well.
Yeah, they have their own training facility and everything. I mean, usually, most times, they'll volunteer to do it. If we were to give a donation or something, but I think we should investigate it, save a lot of money.
So can we table that? Do we need to look at that?
Well, it's gonna be on the 8th, so,
I mean, I can reach out to the fire department and get back to them.
that'd be great.
and see what-
Can
How
you
many
do that
staff
like
was
tomorrow?
on?
Well, it was going to be 42. 42 is the maximum number, but I believe we're now probably closer to 35.
Can we do that like ASAP, Mr. Ward, due to the fact that,
We have a break, I call, well, call them.
Okay.
The answers as well, I think.
We can then come back to that, and vote,
Table it for now.
Okay.
if you get a hold of someone, that'd be great.
No, I have a question on number 7. Why is that a shared service agreement? Is that not the responsibility to take care of?
Okay.
But are they charging, you're not charging the residents or?
All right,
Maybe they are,
I'm raising my hand. So my question is I think we should table number 7 until next month, and we can get more information, because that's not, okay. There's residents getting, sidewalks that the township feels should be getting for free. And we're being charged $6,000, so we really need to look into that,
I agree.
okay?
I mean, I know that they're doing handicap ramps that they
No, I'm not
have to do all
speaking of
around.
those handicap
Right,
ramps,
and I
I'm
don't know
speaking of
who's getting what
specific
and what they're paying for
sidewalks.
it, right.
Yes,
Right, I know there's some
And-
stuff going on.
yeah. I would prefer to see us wait till we can get more information about that.
It is our understanding that it's our responsibility to do curbing. And so the borough approached us with sharing the service for us to use their bid on this project and thereby realize a savings for us to do it. We did budget it because it was always our understanding that it was our responsibility to do the curbing. sort of a hot button issue because it actually is a hazard. Butch attempted to do some repair, and the repair looked like it was okay, but if you can strike while the iron is hot and have the borough assist by
So how
doing
long
it.
is the borough gonna be replacing the streets and the curbs in town?
We don't know. We hear different stories, but the latest that we heard is that it's not in the queue for any time soon.
No, how long is Bach Associates and the
Oh, the period
concrete
of time.
contractor going to be working on the streets within, in the town?
Not sure.
Because I don't know, I'm
No,
not.
I don't have a deadline on that. I know
Right.
that from what Mr. White had told me that they're trying to wrap it up and come to a conclusion on that, but I don't know how many other spots that they're working on right now to be able to tell you.
They just started re-asking yesterday to tear out curbs and pave that street. There's a few other streets around that still need to be done. And they got like a punch list last go through before they can actually.
So if we tabled this for another 30 days, it would.
We have another meeting on
The
the 15th.
meeting's on the 17th, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
not even that long, it's 2.5 weeks. So what questions do you specifically?
My questions are, there are sidewalks within our town that are being paid for by the tax dollars. And that they're at someone's discretion, that we're paying for those. And I'm okay with that if that's how it's going to be. However, I'm not okay with them selectively giving people sidewalks and charging the school district $6,000 to put in a curb and an apron. I'm not okay with that, because that is just wrong, and I feel very adamant about that. There is, it's not just eligibility, I just have an issue with that. So it shouldn't be shared, and if they're going to give to one, they should give to all. And, $6,000 plus our other $3,000 or $4,000 we saved, we've now accomplished something big, and we could have saved 10 grand in one night. So that's a big deal.
Let's see what we can find out. But we didn't know what you had said, so it's going to be.
I think it would help also if we have some specifics on locations where that's being done. 'Cause
You want the
if-
addresses?
Well, because if our superintendent sits down with the borough, they're gonna say, oh, no, she needs to be able to say, well,
I will have them to
the
her.
following
My question, John,
locations.
are police officers involved in any of this roads?
No.
Okay,
Put
okay.
Kate-
Just wondering if it was part of
Now I'll give you the
what you were
addresses.
doing.
Patty?
Yeah, when we sat down with the, building, or when we had the, what is that name? I can't remember.
Garrison Architect?
He did say that the school is responsible. It doesn't matter, we have to be responsible
No, no.
for the curb.
I don't
so-
doubt that.
Right.
What I doubt is, so are you responsible for the sidewalk in front of your home as I am mine? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, there are sidewalks, if you look,
Right.
that are not on corners,
Right.
not on corners,
I understand.
that have an apron, have the first block of sidewalk, and then there's various other blocks that have been
Right.
replaced. I inquired about this.
But that's a school issue?
No,
Okay,
the
that's
town
fine.
is paying for various
Right.
people to have replaced cement. I'm okay with that when they said, but it's in need. Other townships charge. When you, for instance,
Right.
I would think there's other townships, when they're putting in curbing and apron, if you would like to have your concrete replaced, you have to get with the contractor, they work you out a deal since they're there, and you get your concrete replaced. We're not doing that. We're giving it at a free rate based off of someone's
Right.
decision, which I'm okay with. But what I'm not okay with is us having to pay for something when they're randomly selecting concrete blocks to replace for free.
So in other words, we are doing, I know, but we're still have to be responsible for our curbing.
We'll do that.
So the shared services, that are we getting it cheaper because that company's in doing a bunch of stuff? So in the long run, if we don't wanna share, we don't get our own contractor, it could be more expensive.
No, in the long run, I'd like the township to pick up the dime and do
The
it.
dime contractor doing more
But what you're saying
Right.
is people are getting it done for free.
If it's
Some
in
people,
need.
but
Throughout
our
town.
school is responsible for.
Yeah, but why are they
Yeah,
doing,
but
why
private
are they doing it
citizens are
for free
responsible
for
for
them and
their
not for
own,
us?
so
Right,
why?
I don't know.
Right,
Because
that's the
So
question.
that's the concern.
But Amy, you are going to provide us with addresses or areas where the sidewalk is.
Absolutely.
And you
The thing is, we're doing
you were
curbs
told that
and
they were.
sidewalks.
I was specifically told that the dollars were being paid, that the sidewalks were
doing
being
it
paid for,
anyway.
because I was wondering, why were all these people getting concrete work done?
Why are they doing one?
Absolutely.
We need a new apron ourselves.
Okay, so we need to amend the motion. So we're going to amend that motion. I need a motion for item number 1, 2, without the American Heart Association Heart Saver.
The core standards training, is that going to filtrate through the entire personnel? So they're gonna go and they're gonna come back and teach everyone else, right? Is that, okay.
At grade level and subject area, we selected certain people to come back with the information.
Right.
So item number 1, item number 2, without the American Heart Association 2178. Item number 3, 4, 5, 6, not number 7, number 8, 9, and 10. I need a motion for that, please.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Patty,
I'll second.
seconded by Lynn. Roll call.
Thanks. Angel Beebe?
Yes.
Charles Buckheim?
Yes.
Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Maria Panzarella?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
John Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Under policy and public relations, I need an item to, oh, I knew there was something else I needed to read, sorry. How could I
Trying
skip
to avoid
quickly?
that.
Okay. I need a motion to approve item number 1, which reads, Miss Marie Gallagher as principal of the Lion Bingham and Grace Downing Elementary Schools for the 2012-2013 school year. The resolution reads, whereas the Runnymede Board of Education will share the same principal, Miss Marie Gallagher, as principal of both Bingham and Downing K-3 schools in the interest of efficiency. Whereas the head teacher who will serve in this capacity for the 2012-2013 school year is Miss Patricia Connell. Ms. Connell holds the following certificates: Standard Elementary Education and ESL, as well as Supervisor with Principal Certificates of Eligibility. She assists and supports Ms. Gallagher with the day-to-day operations of the school. I need a motion to approve that resolution. Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Amy, seconded by Naomi. Any questions?
Is that a question? Do we ever do this before?
We have to, yes, we
I
did
don't
last year.
remember
too.
this.
We have to, approve- there, I think there were a couple of years that we missed doing it,
Okay.
but lately the County Office of Education has been clear to remind us that we need this done.
We need to do this, okay.
But their duties are the same, nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed, we just need to have a board resolution that we share.
Okay. Any other questions?
And she was curving it.
Roll call.
Angel Beebe?
Yes.
Charles Buckheim?
Yes.
Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Maria Panzarella?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
And John Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
At this time, under policy and public relations, I'm just gonna ask for a motion for items number 1 and 2, please, because I have to read number 3. Motion for number 1 and 2.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Lynn,
Second.
seconded by Charles. Any questions? These are all mandated, correct? Roll call?
Angel Beebe?
Yes.
Charles Buckheim?
Yes.
Naomi Davidson?
Yes.
Amy Farah?
Yes.
Maria Panzarella?
Yes.
Patricia Smith?
Yes.
Samantha Spalding?
Yes.
Lynn Terrell?
Yes.
And John Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
I'm gonna read the resolution, the Camden County Elementary League membership resolution that I need a motion to approve. The Board of Education of School District of Runnymede, County of Camden, State of New Jersey herewith enrolls the Runnymede Public Schools as a member of the Camden County Elementary League to participate in the approved inter-school athletic program sponsored by Camden County Elementary League. This resolution to continue in effect until or unless rescinded by the Board of Education and shall be included among those policies adopted annually by the board. In adopting this resolution, the Board of Education adopts as its own policy and agrees to be governed by the Constitution, bylaws, and rules of the regulation of the Camden County Elementary League. A photocopy of the minutes signifying the adoption of this membership resolution is attached. Administrative responsibility. The league must rely upon the voluntary compliance by its member schools in enforcing the standards set forth in the bylaws and the Constitution. Toward that end, the principal in each member school has the affirmative obligation to report to the Camden County Elementary League any violation of these standards. The fact that a school has disclosed that there has been an eligibility violation will not relieve that affected school of sanctions that may be imposed against it pursuant to Article 8 of the bylaws, including the forfeiture of games or events. However, the failure to disclose a violation may be grounds for imposing additional sanctions upon the offending school. I need a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Lynn,
Second.
seconded by Amy. Any questions?
What is accounting? And why do we have to be involved with it?
It's the elementary school.
That's why it's-
It's the
yeah,
sports.
Just like the Olympic conference for high school.
It's the athletic thing, it's just the rules, regulations that we as a school district agree to abide by to make the Camden County Elementary
Is this new
legal.
for us?
This, we never did this
No.
before.
They've been a member of
I
the
just don't
league for
agree with
years.
many things the county is involved
Probably
with.
never.
No, it's just a little
It's
elementary.
run by a lot of, former administrators.
Yes. We always approved our, quote, membership and our dues, we've always approved that, but this is something just to make sure that.
Like
because it-
scheduling.
Right.
I'm a member of all of Mr. Terrell's executive committee.
Well,
Roll call, please.
Angel Beebe,
Yeah.
Charles Buckheim,
Yes.
Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Maria Panzarella, Patricia Smith, Samantha Spalding,
Yes.
Lynn Terrell,
Yes.
and John Ward.
yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, we are open to any public comment. The public is reminded that all public complaints against a district employee must be made through a specific grievance process. A description of this process may be found in the Board of Ed Policy File Code 0167. This policy is available upon request in the Office of the Board Secretary. Any individual naming an employee in a complaint before the Board of Education without the employee's permission could be cited for violating that employee's civil and contractual rights. And please understand that we still are in our 3-minute, our policy that is 3 minutes per comment. Any public comments at this time? Yes, state your name and address, please.
Donna Collins, 549 Boston Court. This is at the last meeting, and I want to know about the transportation.
What do you want to know about
What's
transportation?
going on with the busing transportation? That we had discussed the subscription busing. We're going to look into, I believe there's about, 6 children that take the bus now. So was anything done regarding this?
It's not 6 children that take the bus. This subscription busing is a process that has to go through where we would even have to do a policy as far as who would even be eligible. It would be on a year-to-year basis based on what the bus company, which would be a vendor that we would contract with, who could vary by year to year because we have to go out to bid because we don't have our own buses. And it would then be paid in full by the parents depending on what the policy is, what the criteria is, based on the fee that the vendor would then give us. And it's not, and I reached out to all the counties through the association, and I might have gotten 3 responses. All of them were in North Jersey, one was in Atlantic City. And it's not something that this board at this time can go back and try to establish. I'm already trying to deal with some timing issues with the bus that we have right now with our vendor. So at this time, subscription busing was not something that the board had really priority. Right. I'm following the state guidelines. I'm following the mandates as far as following the threshold. Unfortunately, that wasn't done in the past. I'm following the guidelines, and I know that that's created some hardships for people, but the board directs me not to break the rules, not to do things arbitrary and capricious, because if I do that, anyone in this township could then say, the bus is going by, you're picking up so-and-so, he doesn't live or she doesn't live over the 2-minute threshold, why can't you pick my child up? I have to follow those mandates.
How many people have contacted you, since the last meeting about?
Since the last meeting,
My name is Nicole Panica, 600 Sherrington Lane. I'm actually talking about the bus also. I just have some comments to say about it. You talked about the sidewalks and all that. Well, from our area up, there is no sidewalks. There's no curbing, there's no sidewalks. But right up the street from Bigham, they got all brand new crap, which is fine. But now our kids have to walk on someone's grass, and if you go up our street, you can go to the police station. There's a guy who lives 2 blocks away who threatens our kids day after day for making his dog bark. And the cops have been there countless times for him. I can't send my daughter past that house without her being scared, because he comes out and threatens them. So now it's either I send her that way to school, or I send her up Forest, which has no sidewalks or anything, and there's a guy there who's constantly yelling outside, where I've called the cops on him. So it's either we have to drive them in the morning and pick them up, which is okay, fine. But there is, I counted, 7 kids on that bus after school. 7 kids, that's it. The first day of school, the bus driver didn't even know he wasn't supposed to pick our kids up. He's beeping outside our house, where are your kids? We don't have buses, you know? So no, we're fine to walk, it's safe. Davis is safe to walk with. He's like, no, it's not, and that's the bus driver saying.
That's not a board. We can't deem what's hazardous and what's not hazardous. So, correct?
sidewalks is not in the guidelines, whether or not there's a sidewalk. There's gotta be somewhere that they can walk that's not in the street. So whether it be on the grass, along the curb,
But
not in the street.
it's a hill, it's dirt.
It's all dirt.
And it's the street that the kids all go to Triton on, which they fly down it
What
every
street is
morning.
that? What street?
Davis.
On Davis. It's
On Davis. And there's no sidewalks there. The kids can, it's not safe for the kids to walk by the apartments.
There's
Why
one
not?
area on Davis that does not have sidewalk.
It's
And
2.5 blocks. There are 2, now, they can cross Davis and walk, and then cross again and walk, because there's a little bit of sidewalk here, then there's grass,
Yeah.
then there's a little bit of sidewalk here, then there's grass. So yeah, they can
I
jump back
walked
and
it.
forth.
I did walk it because I was concerned the parents were gonna, say how long it took. I walked it, and I did not go in the street there. I did not have any dogs barking at me. Not that that doesn't happen, I'm sure it does. But I'm just letting you know that I have to follow the state guidelines.
I understand, you're following state guidelines. You don't live around here though. You told me yourself, you're
But
new
if-
to this area, you don't know anything. And you also told me on the phone that Forest is not really a safe street to walk up. You
I
said
didn't
that to
say
me
it
on the
was,
phone.
I did not say that it
You
was
said it
not
was a little
safe.
sketchy,
No,
walking up Forest because of the
I said I
woods.
like the other roads better because the
Because
sidewalks
no
might
one
be a
can
little
grab you. A
bumpy.
pedophile in those apartments can't grab those kids
But
walking
see,
up that
some of
street.
these issues that you're addressing to the Board of Education is really issues that you need to address with the police department.
But we said them to you, and you're the one who,
I'm following the guidelines, I'm sorry, I am following the guidelines.
I have something else to say. You keep saying you're following the guidelines.
Yes.
I read that law. The law actually says that the school can still transport these children at their expense or the expense of the parents.
Right.
That's how the law reads.
But what they said to you earlier
So basically, you're
was-
getting money for the 6 or 7 kids. That's how I
There are
read it.
22 students on the bus. There's not 6 or 7. There are 22 students who ride the bus.
So, does the school get money from the state for those children to help pay for their busing?
In our state aid, this year, for the first time, I think, what were we allotted, $7,000?
$7,000.
And our transportation costs for this district and transporting students out of district are in the $200,000 range.
how much does it cost for our bus per year?
It varies depending on the vendor, but just for in our district alone, it's almost $90,000.
For one bus?
For
all-
one
no, no, no.
bus.
I'm
For the routes.
busing for all the routes that deal with the children that are required to be bused because of special ed and it's in their IEPs, and anyone that exceeds the 2-mile threshold.
So, I guess I still don't understand it, because if the school is paying already, why were the children that have been on the bus that are 1.82 miles from the school?
Okay, so this Board of Education in 2010 adopted a policy whereby they did away with what's called courtesy busing. That means that you follow the regulations for busing students. every student who lives outside of the 2-mile limit can be bused. They are the only ones. The only exception to that is if we deem, along with the police department, we have to do it in concert with the police department if we deem a hazardous route. The only hazardous route is surrounding the meadows, and the reason for that is that those children walk out of their door and immediately into a parking lot and then into the street. There's no sidewalk, there's no place for them to walk where they're not in amongst cars. So that is the only area that's deemed a hazardous route. Now, what happened was, initially, 2 years ago when this first happened, we were in between business administrators. And the people who were managing, running the routes, were not as thorough, quite honestly, as they needed to be, because they didn't understand the law as well. What they did was they established a route based on some mapping that in some cases had children that were being bused that were not outside of the 2-mile range. When Mrs. Augustine got here and she had a greater knowledge of how to establish these routes, she said that there is only one way to establish the route, and it has to be done consistently so that we are not arbitrary. The challenge was that we knew that there were some people who were inside of the 2-mile limit, not outside of the 2-mile limit, and really should not have been bused. If we bus anybody between 1.9 and no miles, then what we're doing is we're being arbitrary about who we bus. It's like you can't be a little bit pregnant. You either are outside of the 2 miles or you're inside of the 2 miles. It's very black and white. We drew the lines according to the guidelines, and that is why the change occurred this year.
So the kids in presidential apartment aren't worthy of getting bused then? They walk out into a parking lot too. So for 2 years, they weren't worthy of being bused? If that's what you want to get technical about it, they're walking out into a parking lot.
And they're gonna be more than 2 miles. They're further.
They're
down
just on
than
the other
that.
side of the development.
I think the kids in presidential do have sidewalks.
There's some sidewalks in
Yeah,
that.
but that's gotta be, they have to be more than 2 miles.
No, they're not.
not.
Even Calvert Court's not 2
Residential,
miles, they
they're
said
No,
there.
I don't think so.
All I can tell you, and I'm sorry that this has affected you in a negative way, but Mrs. Augustine spent weeks through the summer running routes, driving them herself, walking them herself, in touch with the police department, talking about crossing guards, ensuring that there were crossing guards at safe posts. And this was a very challenging thing that she spent hours and hours to make sure she was getting right. And as a result, this is where we have landed. And there are a few people who, I know it's an inconvenience, and I'm sorry that it is, but we are required to follow the regulations and our current board policy. And with regard to we could pay for it, we don't pay for it because we don't have courtesy busing. Could parents pay for it through subscription busing? As Mrs. Augustine said, that is an extensive process. It is not widely used. When you look at who uses it through the state of New Jersey, it is larger, districts that are larger by land mass, and quite honestly, districts that are a bit wealthier, whose parents wouldn't mind paying a few $1,000s a year for their children to be on a bus. Because what happens is you get a route, and it may cost $40,000 a year, and we have to then allocate a piece of that to every parent who would bus. And maybe that's something that would work in Runnymede, but we currently haven't been directed by this Board of Education to explore that, because it's a large process. There's research that's connected with it, would be rather extensive, and at this stage of the game, we haven't really considered it to be a priority.
How many children were taken
That
away?
was my
How many
next question.
children were the,
How many children were affected by it becoming an issue from
Thanks.
last school year to this school year?
thanks for finishing that thought.
Our street alone, there was like 18 kids.
I think it was 18.
About 18 children.
I think it was
Just on
18.
our street.
Here's my question. Are we saying that it's the police department's job to deem this route unsafe versus
We
safe?
do that together.
Okay.
Together to make
And,
a policy.
and we approached the police department regarding what they consider to be hazardous routes.
Correct.
They really didn't consider anything to be hazardous.
Okay.
Mrs. Augustine went out and said, come with, we went together, and we looked at the meadows, and we said that it didn't seem fair for those children to walk, there's no sidewalk, there really isn't even grass in most instances, they
Because
go
on the other
right.
side, there's curb and the fence was allowed to be put right up, almost right smack against the curb, so there is no place to walk between the curb and the fence or the guardrail. So they're walking in the street there. They have no option.
And then my next question would be, has anyone reached out to the police now that school has started? And obviously they're getting called a couple times a week, or however often they're being called for, dogs barking, and here's the way I look at it. This is really all about the kids, and if you have kids that are walking to school and they're afraid to walk to school because there's a dog barking at them and a man that's gonna call the police, or the mom has to call the police because the kids are having problems, do we not revisit this situation and deem maybe, or come up with another definition for hazardous at this
We
point?
don't define hazardous routes.
Okay.
Hazardous routes are defined within the regulations.
Okay.
So barking dogs.
Right. I'm just wondering, again, if you're having children that are ultimately not gonna end up in school, or, have an issue with getting to school, not coming, where
Well,
do we?
children are coming here, correct?
Correct.
I can reach out to the police department and find out what contacts have been made by the parents concerning
Yeah, just
issues
because
with
then,
the
additional.
children walking.
Yeah.
So if a route costs, how much do you think a route costs?
It would vary.
So it's gonna cost, well, no, because we're doing the route, but that
He
goes
turns-
back
I have
to
3
first.
routes.
He already turns down our street
No,
now.
I understand.
No, he doesn't like just go by our house now, Davis. He actually
I
turns
know, but it
into our
goes back
street
to
to
the
go
courtesy-
around
it
to
goes
come
the
up.
courtesy thing. And the only reason I understand, when I was in school, my neighbor, we lived in a row home, my neighbor got busing. I did not. I was at 1.9999, and my mother had to get me there, and no matter how hard she fought, I still got to school 45 minutes early, so that I could get to school. But, so I get the courtesy busing thing, but is it possible, how extensive will it be to find out how much it'll cost? How hard is it to find out how much it'll cost?
How much it will cost for
If for elective family, how hard is it to come up with a proposal from an outside vendor?
Do a separate route?
Yes, to purchase and buy into it. Because that's what
That's
you're
what you
saying,
need.
right? That's what
That's
you
what-
were
that's what
asking.
you
We
need.
don't need a separate route.
No, but it would, that's not, what I'm saying is of, for the dollar amount.
Joanna discussed it, but you have to have a survey, because you couldn't just offer it to Sheraton, you have to offer it to everybody in town.
Okay,
Right.
So
it
now,
has to be-
now just say that, okay, you
Right,
have
John, you're right.
20 people in Sheraton, but only one person at Green Acres side.
Right.
So now that's gonna change the whole dynamic of the bus route, the pricing will change.
Oh, I can.
You know what I mean? So you have to offer it to everyone.
Where, how do you, because then other people will say, we want subscription pricing as well. And so then you're talking about additional routes. If it was only a matter of filling the current bus, which as practical working people, I know that you don't understand why an empty bus goes past your house, or a bus with a few kids goes past your house. I get that. I would have the same questions that you have, but it follows the regulations and the guidelines. So just filling that bus isn't what we can do, because how would we just offer that to this number of people? Well, first come, first serve. I mean, if you do a subscription busing, you then have to create a policy with parameters for subscription busing, which would have entirely new routes and thousands of dollars. Now, to do that, I must be honest with you though, my sense is that the community of Runnymede is probably not likely to buy into this in any large degree for a few $1,000s a year to bus your children to school. We haven't gotten any groundswell of support from parents who say, I'm on for however much it costs.
Can I go back?
I pay over $3,000 a year to send my child to Just Kids. He's in 6th grade, that this year I was hoping I didn't have to pay it this year, that he would take the bus. But there is no way that he is leaving the school at 2:15 in the afternoon and walking home 1.82 miles down Davis Road with no, across the Deluxe Bakery where there's cars running in and out.
Yeah,
the
there's no
Heritage
curbs
running
there.
in.
How come there's no curb there? You said it has to be,
That's
that's a
not-
state
that's
thing
not
for a
safe
curb. There's not
either.
one curb along Clemens Bridge Road in that area. Cars just go in and out of the parking lots.
That's a county road.
And they did put curbs in there. If you look when they're just addressing that now.
Yeah.
It's part of the project, that's a county road, I don't know if that affects.
And there is a route that they don't go down Clements Bridge Road. If you take Third, It's third, right? Third all the way up? to
No,
the-
that's
You
after that.
Still have to go-
It's
You still
after that.
have to cross
You still have to go to Country.
Heritage,
Yeah.
Deluxe Bakery, and part of the ice place.
Yes.
And there is cars going in and out of those places at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And there's just what, the one, yeah, they're going, and there's the one crossing guard by Deluxe,
There's
right?
one crossing guard by Deluxe, and there's supposed to be one from,
And the Heritage.
And you're right, we
Right.
can't make that
Right.
decision unless we
but
actually.
I
know
never
that.
see the one at the, because I think what they do is they sit in their cars. They don't get out, because I crossed Third Avenue one day, and there was no crossing guard on Third Avenue. And come to find out, she was sitting, I guess she was in her car, and I guess they wait until they see kids and then they get out.
Yes.
But in my opinion, if you're a crossing guard, you should be out at the crossing.
That's a police
Because
issue.
when
That's a
I,
police
when, exactly, and I know that, and there was a policeman standing there, and I told him, and he apparently must have went up, and she's been standing outside ever since. That's another reason I don't want him walking.
In 2010, when we did the budget, and that was when Christie cut all the money, correct? That's when the busing issue on the, like, policy changed.
Right, because we were paying over $200,000 for buses, and by law,
Right,
I know that we were doing it, but we were doing it as a courtesy, and we cannot do that
right.
we cannot do that without getting rid of staff and increasing, class sizes and everything else. Not that the safety is not a priority to us, but so is class size and keeping our teachers in all of our programs too.
I remember being at the
So
presentation.
we do not have $210,000 to bus
And it could be more
everybody.
because with the price of gas being the way it is right now, we found that our route is actually about $10,000 more this year. And they were the low bid.
And we don't make the regulations, we can't change the regulations.
Right.
On what makes a hazardous route, that's a state regulation.
It's defined.
Yes, your name please?
Kim Dwowski, 596 Sharrington Lane. How far away do you have to be from the bus stop to be able to be on that bus stop? Live there? Like, say, where is the bus stop? Down near the
The bus
apartment?
stop has nothing to do with it, it's your distance from your residence to the front, to the entrance to the school. It's your front
So
door to the
you're
front
saying
door of the
it's
building.
safer to walk from our house all the way to here? Now, I have a fourth grader. I do not want her walking up here. I don't know if anyone had checked the list for the pedophiles. Did you guys consider that?
Again,
I spoke to the
please.
police department about that.
Okay, I mean, you agreed to it?
He did not address any concerns that he has.
Okay.
Of course, the police are gonna say everything's well and,
It's being
and all
by the
that.
fourth, because I believe a police officer was not for this, and another police officer might have said, well, your kids run around all summer, why can't they walk? Which is bull, because my daughter's not allowed to go past 3 houses from my house.
We just have to, we understand because we live here and we have children here.
I
And
understand.
I'm not saying that, I live right by you guys too.
Right.
My son will not walk. I don't know what I'm gonna have to do. My son's probably gonna be in latchkey too, because I have to be at work by 7:10 every morning.
Mhm.
So, we're not saying we don't agree with you. We agree with you. But what we're saying is, it goes from the shortest route from your door to the door of the school,
Mhm.
and anything under 2 miles, we cannot bus.
Okay.
And we're not saying we don't agree with you, and we're not saying that we think that it's safe for your child to, but what we're saying is, it's the law, and due to financial reasons and like the other things I was just saying, like class size, staff, we just do not have it in our budget
Okay.
to do that. And we're not saying that we disagree with you at all. We agree with you, believe me.
Right.
But what we're saying is by law, when we found out the law, we had to do away with, because when I went to school here, all of your children, even where I live, would be bused. But we just can't do that anymore, because we were spending over $200,000 in what the state considers a courtesy.
Right.
We can't do that in this day and age anymore, unfortunately for your street.
Now, okay,
I'm sorry, it's just the truth.
I get that. But when you're, like, I do think that maybe we need to readdress what is safe and not safe, the board and the police,
And
and
we're
go
gonna
over
do that,
it,
we're gonna
because,
call them, we're gonna reach out to the police department tomorrow to
Okay.
see how many complaints they got, what type of complaints they got, and maybe revisit this. You have my word, we'll do that tomorrow.
and then another issue I have, like you're saying, from the apartments, there are no sidewalks or anything. So for them to leave and get to the bus stop must be dangerous, right? What's the difference?
They probably walk in the yard
But there's no sidewalk, it's right to a parking lot, is what you're saying. So,
I don't know where the bus stop is.
The bus stop, I think, is by the stop sign.
Yeah.
right, on Davis
So
Road.
if they come out of the apartments, they don't have to cross over the street.
They're not crossing the street.
Maybe the bus picks them up on the same side as the apartment. They're not walking out into the street. I'm not
Okay.
100% on that, but I'm
They
pretty
used to
sure.
pick
Because they could walk to the corner and easily cross the street there, like the rest of our kids have
But I
to
think the
cross.
bus, it picks them up at that stop sign on Hartford Drive and Sherrington or Sherrington.
Right. Okay, but I would like to know about that, like as far as.
Oh, you have my
redirect-
word, we're gonna follow up with it tomorrow.
Okay,
I wrote her name down. Could you repeat your address?
596 Sherrington Lane.
I have her. I don't know if it's spelled.
Now, none of us have called the police station over the fact of our kids not being bused, because we don't really think that's a police issue. It's a school
Right,
issue.
we're talking about, like, do they, like you said that you had to call the cops because someone threatened your child.
Yeah.
Because, like, we're gonna check into that, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to see how many complaints there have been since school started, since it's been a few weeks now.
Well, none of the kids are walking because of that. This was in the summer. This was in the summertime when we
Until the
walked.
beginning of August. I did have an
Yeah.
issue with not even knowing about this issue until the beginning of August. It didn't give us much time.
I know.
Because the thing about middle school, when you did courtesy buses, our kids weren't bused to Downing. Understandable. We all worked it out. We're trying to work with this too. When you get to Volts, you've got, like my son is in 7th grade. I'm a little easier about him walking. It still scares me, but he plays basketball. So he's not going to be able to walk with his sister home. He's not going to, even all of us, our kids are involved in different things. So it makes me feel like, oh, so they shouldn't be involved, so they can all stick together and be safe to come home?
No,
It's-
we don't,
Right.
that's not what we're saying
No,
either.
I
And
know
I just
that.
wanna tell you again, that this board understands, we're all parents too. We understand what you're doing, but I just, and I know it affects your child, so I mean, 200, I don't know if you know our budget, 200,000 of our budget here in Runnymede for our schools, it would be drastic.
Okay.
Drastic. Like no nurses, no guidance counselors, like our neighboring districts. It would be drastic to our class sizes. I mean, it would be a huge amount. You may not have any extracurricular activities to come to.
Gotcha.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, we just have to, we just said, you know what, we're gonna follow the law, so that way, we're following the law, and our kids still have nurses, our kids still have good class sizes, our kids still have basketball.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
I have an issue with the $6,000 some dollars, as she was saying, with the curbing and the thing. Now, they had existing sidewalks and curbing, but what we're talking about don't have it at all. So why wouldn't that be a priority when the kids have to walk?
Borough issue, correct?
That's
That's a borough issue.
It's a borough issue.
And we're not trying to, and again, we're not trying to say like,
I'm not trying to kick the can.
kick the can like,
The
oh,
curbing
you go.
stuff was because they're doing the whole project. So we need to replace it, so they decided to replace it and want to send us a bill. But we didn't ask them to do it, we don't know how they decided to decide
Yeah.
who gets new curbs and corners and that.
But if they're telling you our area is completely safe, but yet they're putting curbing and new sidewalks in an area that is safe because it's a block away from a school.
Well, I don't know that it's not a safety issue, they were putting in handicap ramps. on all the corners.
But they all got new aprons.
Well,
Aprons, a lot more money than a piece of
because-
sidewalk.
Because they were broken during the process to put in the new stuff. So if you didn't have a handicap, if you're not a handicap corner or whatever, then you weren't gonna get anything done.
We had that done in our development.
Right.
We had, but no one ever once
Not
said to
into
us.
the development, not into it.
Not into it, but
the
no one
development.
came to us and said, do you want new sidewalks? Mine have,
Well, they're
my
not, they're not
sidewalk
offering
says
that.
shit on it,
They're
and
not-
other things written on there when I
They're not
moved in.
offering
That's
it.
what we're looking
Because-
into.
as-
You
right,
know,
as a
like,
company, they're not
I had to
offering it.
pay for
The
my
only
own
reason why they
sidewalk
have
to be fixed.
Exactly.
Well, you're supposed to say by
Yeah.
contract.
Yes, we agree with you there too, that's why we tabled that item. Anything else? No? Okay, at this time, we are going into executive session this evening, so I need to read the resolution. Whereas while the Senator Byron M. Bayer Open Public Meetings Act NJSA 10:4-12 requires all meetings of the Runnymede School District Board of Education to be held in public, NJSA 10:4-12B sets forth 9 types of matters that may lawfully be discussed in executive session without the public being permitted to attend. And whereas the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public, and whereas the 9 exceptions to public meetings set forth and NJSA 10:4-12B are listed below, and next to each exception is a box within which the number of issues to be privately discussed that fall within that exception shall be written. And after each exemption is a space where additional information that will disclose as much information about the decision as possible without undermining the purpose of the exception shall be written. Now, therefore be it resolved that Runnymede Public School District Board of Education will go into closed session for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12B. Any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiation in which the public body is or may become a party. Any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to that extent as confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer. And this evening, we are going into executive for the litigation specifically named Runnymede Board of Education versus Alessi Roofing. Whereas the length of the executive session is undetermined, however, the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education will make every attempt to estimate the time of session prior to convening to the session, after which the public meeting shall reconvene at 8:37 p.m. and the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education will proceed with business. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education will go into executive session for only the above stated reasons. Be it further resolved that the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education hereby declares that its discussion of the aforementioned subjects may be made public at a time when the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education attorney advises that the disclosure of the discussion will not detrimentally affect any right, interest, or duty of the school district or any other entity with respect to said discussion. Be it further resolved that the Runnymede Public School District Board of Education, for the aforementioned reasons, hereby declare that the public is excluded from the portion of the meeting during which the above discussion shall take place, and hereby directs the board secretary to take appropriate action to effectuate the terms of this resolution. Be it further resolved that the board secretary on the next business day following this meeting shall furnish a copy of this resolution to any member of the public who requests one at the fees allowed by NJSA 47:1A-1. So at this time, we're going into executive session after 5 minutes. Oh, I need a motion. Sorry.
You have to read it again.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Motion made by Naomi, seconded by Patty. Can I say all in favor after a 5-minute break? Aye. All ayes have it. There we go. Well, $400 is $400.
I have to call and make sure that is available for that.
So how would we work that?
Can we, since this is something that we need to do and it has to be done on October 8th, can we go ahead and do it and then ratify it after the fact on the 17th?
Why don't you make the stipulation that you're, you want to approve whatever your vendor is to do the training
You can prove
on
up to that amount.
October 8th, on October 8th, provided that they can come on October 8th, otherwise we'll have to go back to the vendor that we already.
Okay, so I'm gonna, so bear with me again. I'm going to need a motion to approve professional development for district staff for the for CPR and AED certification, on October 8th, 2012 at Marybold School by
Tom Bushio is the instructor.
Tom
Certified state instructor, Runnymede Fire Department.
Runnymede Fire Department. And if the Runnymede Fire Department is not available, on October 8th, then we're gonna go with the company, the vendor, American Heart Association.
Right, and that'll satisfy everything.
And that'll satisfy
I'll
everything.
make that motion.
Motion made by Lynn,
I'll second.
seconded by
Sorry.
Angel. Roll call.
Angel Beebe,
Yes.
Charles Buckheim,
Yes.
Naomi Davidson,
Yes.
Amy Farah,
Yes.
Patricia Smith,
Yes.
Samantha Spalding,
Yes.
Lynn Terrell,
Yes.
and John Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries 8.
At this time, I need a motion for adjournment.
I'll
Motion
make
to
that
adjourn.
motion.
Motion made by Charles, seconded by Patty. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Apparently.